How are you? Back with us is General Jack Keane, senior analyst at Fox News. General Keane, thank you for being with us. A lot of information and news today, and I would like to start by asking for your assessment, sir.
We are in a very good situation. The president doubled down against the Iranians. They started by closing the Strait of Hormuz and then managed to get a ceasefire. They were probably feeling pretty good about that, hopefully. And look what happened here. We imposed a blockade. That was President Trump's decision. And everything changed as a result of that. And the reason for that is quite simple. Now we're holding things firmly in our hands. Iran's entire future viability as a nation, its whole economy, because they are 100% dependent as a nation on oil, which we are now blocking, preventing it from falling into their hands in terms of oil distribution and the money that would come from it. Therefore, we are on a very good path. But I also, due to these 47 years of history dealing with the Iranians, and I dealt with Iran as an adversary nation. During most of my military career, and even a bit after it, I have a healthy dose of skepticism toward those guys, Larry. In other words, what we have to take into consideration here is what Iran is promising our negotiators and what they actually do in terms of signing a statement and then carrying it out, because that could be something different. So why am I skeptical about what they want to do? They want to extend this ceasefire for as long as possible because this is complicated and we need to work on the details and prolong this process. That's what they've done in the past. We need to stay focused and put pressure on them. What we need to do is put pressure on them to finish everything within the established deadline and finalize the agreement, and then settle the details as quickly as possible. And to ensure that everything they say they will do is actually done, there should be a separate process to verify exactly that. And that means permission to enter Iran anywhere, anytime, without inspections anywhere, anytime. That has never happened in its 47-year history, including the IAEA. They were told where they could go and where they couldn't go. And we have to break that paradigm. We are dealing with the whole process from the past, how they controlled the inspectors and how they deceived and lied throughout that period. That regime hasn't changed. Remember what happened here, Larry? You know this because we've discussed it before. We changed the faces and names. We didn't change the ideology or the regime itself. They're still there, acting in their own self-interest and looking for the best way to recover. For example, intelligence shows that they're trying to quickly recover their ballistic missile program. A large part of it is under rubble, as well as their launchers. We know they have about 1,000 missiles that they haven't used yet, and something around 100 launchers, and they're recovering everything else. Now, why are they going through all this trouble? Probably because in the future they won't change at all. And we have to maintain that skepticism. I'm not dismissing the agreement. I'm just trying to bring a bit of realism, yes, about who we're dealing with here. And we have the history and the evidence of what I'm talking about here, yes. We have to be very careful with what we're doing here with them, knowing who we're dealing with. I understand that negotiators tend to get euphoric when the Iranians say they'll do X, Y, and Z. They're just words. They sign a paper saying they'll do X, Y, and Z. I get it. It's just a piece of paper. None of this is really being carried out until we see ourselves flying there. Remove the highly enriched uranium. Now that's real substance, right? Besides all the other things we have to check as well.
I completely agree. It's trust, but verified to the 100th power. You're absolutely right. Of course you're right. I think what Mr. Trump said is very important in this regard. The naval blockade will remain in full force and effect with respect to Iran only, until our deal with Iran is completed. And I mean, it's important for us to keep control so we can cut off their money, their finances, and their economy, right? And wear them down. But until the process described is completed, it's complex. They say it will be a transfer of enriched uranium from the Iranians to the Americans. As you noted, this has never happened before. They don't even let international inspectors in, which says it all. We need to develop a careful process and see if it works, if they allow it to happen before any concessions. Our troops have to remain on site, and the embargo must be maintained until the end of the operation.
Yes, and there's another thing we have to remember. We need to preserve our ability to return to combat. Nobody wants to hear that. I understand, because we're getting to the end and everyone is satisfied. But that's real strength, and that's what helped bring us to where we are, and we have to keep that in mind. Obviously, our combat forces in the region aren't going anywhere. Israel's forces aren't going. They're not going anywhere. And we can't. And we have to finalize this agreement, make it public, and feel good about it. We have to make sure there's discipline and diligence to really force them to do what they say they're going to do, or follow through on what they sign and put in writing. In the past, these things were very different, and I think we got their attention. I'm not denying that we've got their attention, and now we have them under control like never before. There's a reason for all of this happening, because our support here came from President Donald Trump. He insisted on it. When they doubled down, when they thought they had doubled down and stopped the war and had that advantage and the momentum to feel good about all of it, then he took the reins and ordered the blockade. Not only that, but remember, he also ordered the straits to be opened, which we still do, to protect foreigners and to escort the ships. That would be phase 2. And it probably won't be necessary now, but preparations are underway in case it becomes necessary. What we've heard from the Iranians is good news, that they are opening the straits without any further intimidation or coercion against the ships. And let's hope that's really the case, and therefore we won't have to carry out that second operation. That's very good news.
But we can't be sure of that either. I mean, I was reading the warnings over there, you know? And they were linking the opening of the Strait of Hormuz to the Lebanese ceasefire with Israel. It seems like there are always a lot of conditions and they don't play fair. So your point is to impose control. We have to keep control. And I think President Trump knows that. We have to keep control. Combat troops must be ready. We need to control the Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, and the Strait of Oman. Cut off money and oil while keeping up the pressure. There's no rush to make this deal. I mean, it has to be done very carefully. I fear that some people think, yes, by this weekend everything will be done. No. That's not possible. This is a lengthy process.
Well, can I add something, Larry?
Yes.
Of course, on one of the topics. Right. The president tweeted today, no bombing of Hezbollah by Israel. I believe there's a fundamental misunderstanding here. Under the terms of the ceasefire agreement, which all parties agreed to, this is a ceasefire in Lebanon that Hezbollah, Israel, and Lebanon accepted. Under these terms, Israel is allowed to conduct defensive operations, both air and ground. If Hezbollah indicates that it is planning an offensive attack, if an attack is imminent, or if it is actually being carried out. Therefore, Israel has the right to defend itself using ground forces and certainly air power, as this gives them an advantage. And certainly that's what we've had over the last 6 or 7 weeks, and certainly that's what Israel has. I wanted to clear up that misunderstanding. I think what the president was reacting to was an offensive operation that took place many days ago in Beirut, when some apartment buildings were hit and destroyed. Why? Hezbollah turned those into operation centers and evicted the tenants. They did this in both Christian neighborhoods and Jewish neighborhoods. And there were some civilian casualties as a result of this in terms of collateral damage. I just wanted to clarify that point. And certainly the president is now aware of this misleading information.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. General Jack Keane, thank you for your wisdom and insights. We greatly appreciate it.